Previously on Chaos Head Noah. Right. There had been a man in a black suit. One that felt fairly out of place in a hospital. As I've been doing my best not to speak, I never asked about him. I didn't know who the hell he was the entire time he was there. He didn't feel like a doctor. He only stood all alone at a fair distance away from everyone else, all while gazing out the window. Hey, Mommy, Daddy, do you by chance know this man in black? I had dubbed him Mr. Nozomi in my head, though that wasn't his actual name or anything.
Nozomi.
Come to think of it, why had those two unrelated cases both been slapped with the New Gen label? Apparently, the group dive had initially been treated as a group suicide. But after the man-child incident had occurred, people online reinvestigated it and discovered the unnatural circumstances surrounding the scene of the crime. Rumors then began to appear, saying that the five may have actually been killed, and that the suicide label was merely a cover-up. According to the parents and good friends of the five victims, there was no way it could have been a suicide. Then, the mass media had started making connections between the two incidents, starting with where they occurred. Shibuya. Madness explodes in today's youth. The new generation madness. Sensationalist headlines like that had started popping up everywhere. To my understanding, anyway. Then came the third case. The murder case I'd witnessed, dubbed the Kruger fiction. The site didn't have as much info on this case, likely due to it having only occurred recently. The victim, 56-year-old Ota Hisashi, was a university professor who had been crucified with stakes to a concrete wall of a vacant house. That was all that had been publicly revealed. 2 months ago, an earthquake with seismic intensity of 3 occurred, with Shibuya at its epicenter. Although the scale was fairly minor, there were still 8 fatalities, which became a popular topic of discussion. Come to think of it, it was true that the New Gen cases had begun after that earthquake. Because of that, the New Gen occultists argued that the 8 deaths in the earthquake could be counted as the first New Gen incident, causing a dispute between them and the New Gen mainstreamers. Regardless, the entire situation was abnormal. After all, despite the fact that 3 brutal cases had occurred in quick succession, no clues on any of their culprits had been found. And many online were waiting eagerly for a 4th case.
犯行現場近くの監視カメラの解析がようやく出ました。犯行時間に不審な人物が映ってました。
Murmurs echoed throughout the conference room. The relaxed atmosphere from before had been turned on its head. The other detectives began to take frantic notes in order to not miss a single word of Sua's report. Considering the situation, it was no surprise they were so frantic about it. After all, 3 horrific cases had occurred within their jurisdiction in the span of a single month. Only one of which was not ruled as a homicide as of yet. Their strong determination to find a culprit even in the face of their reputations was only natural.
プロジェクターに映像を出します。犯行現場近隣の住民の証言により、21時過ぎから21時半頃まで釘を打ちつける音がしていたというのはご承知の通りだと思いますが。
Wait a minute, I thought what we read on the web here said it started around 8 o'clock.
この映像は21時34分。つまりまさに犯行時間直後ということになります。不審人物が映っているのは21時34分53秒からおよそ6秒間です。駐車場の前の道を奥から手前へと走り抜けていきます。
Yep, there we are. Called it. Alright then, time for some computer magic. I needed the details here. I opened up some image processing software and dragged the image in. Then with a big gulp, I selected the levels option in the adjustments menu and brightened the once darkened corners of the image.
Eh?
It's us. Well, I'd say Yua's theory on the nature of this image was right on the money, if you ask me. Precognition could literally be the only explanation for what we're seeing here. What? The hell? Pictured on the screen was unmistakably. But wait a minute, where's the pink-haired girl then? Why isn't she in the image? She muttered the name of the mental illness she had just been researching. The explanation related to it was still displayed on her monitor.
辛いんですね。
Yua hugged a stuffed Gerofroggy by her pillow tightly as she thought about Takumi. What, you think Takumi has DID?
でも、私、
However, her expression soon vanished, replaced only by the gritting of her teeth. When I was a kid, I truly believed that precognition existed, that psychics existed, and if I was being completely honest, I still did to a degree. Because you yourself are one? That was why my first thought had been that the image from Shogun and the demon girl was a precognitive photograph. A thought which only drove me to look into it all the more. What if, maybe, just maybe, there were tons of psychics all over the world and I just didn't know? Back when I was a kid, when that bus accident happened, I managed something that had been pretty close to precognition. For that reason, I couldn't completely rule out its existence. But no matter how much I searched, all I could find was extremely dubious articles about the occult, voodoo shit, or whatever else. There was absolutely nothing that proved scientifically whether it existed or not.
一つぐらいあってもいいだろう。
I read the thread in more detail, only to find out that each of the 3 New Gen incidents had all been prophesized by Phantasm's lyrics. However, the lyrics for the songs that supposedly prophesized the man-child and crucifixion incidents had not been posted on @channel. Apparently uploading them online was viewed as a taboo of sorts. The philosophy seemed to be, if you really want to know, just go to the concerts and buy an album yourself. Regardless, there were a great number of people online trying to predict the next New Gen case, based on the songs Phantasm had performed thus far. And apparently, ever since New Gen kicked off, Phantasm's albums have been completely selling out. They have been so successful, in fact, that even the mainstream media had picked up on it. Gothic band boasting cult following rises among the youth of Shibuya. News stories like that were popping up all over the place. The one writing the lyric was the head singer, FES. Nobody knew her real name. What if FES was actually the demon girl? If she was, it would explain how she managed to prophesize the incidents literal months before they had occurred. The demon girl was the culprit after all. Well, if you want to confirm it, why not look up a picture of FES? And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Chaos Head Noah. So, I decided to look up the name Phantasm, and going from the definition I have here from the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, 5th edition, we have noun, something apparently seen but having no physical reality. A phantom, or an apparition. Noun, an illusory mental image. And 3, noun, in Platonic philosophy, objective reality as perceived and distorted by the 5 senses. So, going by this definition, and given the type of music that this band seems to produce, it seems like a very apt name, all things considered. Very fitting for a lot of the weird stuff that we've been seeing going on here relating to precognition and all that. And I bet that name was a very intentional part on the people who formed it. Anyway, speaking of the band, we're at a music concert, from the looks of it, and a pretty shitty looking one. I assume we're gonna try to see if we can get in touch with the lead singer, or at least somebody associated with the band, although with Takumi's poor social skills, I don't really know how the hell he's gonna accomplish that. But maybe you can surprise me, Takumi. Show me that you have a hidden tiger within that crouching moron that you always show yourself off to be. Hiding in the shadow of a telephone pole, I looked at the gigantes. I'm gonna assume it's gigantes. Pronounce that. The Gigantes concert hall from afar. After agonizing over it all day yesterday, I'd somehow managed to nut up and did what needed to be done. So here I was, Gigantes. It was located on a narrow street in Shibuya, beneath the elevated railroad tracks. It had a very distinct red brick exterior. Getting tongue-twisted already. That is no good. The exterior was lit up too, giving off an old-fashioned, austere vibe that made it feel as if it had been transported back in time to the 50s or something. To think that a spot like this was in Shibuya, of all places. I'd had no idea it even existed until yesterday. It was only 5 minutes from the station on foot, yet there weren't very many people at all. Every once in a while, a train would pass over the elevated tracks with a tremendous roar, and the telephone pole I was hiding behind would tremble slightly, but that was about it. Just a moment ago, there had been a bunch of what appeared to be Phantasm fans in front of Gigantes. Some of them were wearing outfits out there. I'd mistaken them for cosplayers. However, what surprised me the most was that there honestly weren't that many of them. Despite being such a huge topic online, there must have been no more than 100 people there. Regardless, they were all inside the building now. The concert had already begun, but since none of the audio managed to bleed outside, it certainly didn't feel like it. Well, thinking about it, I'm sure that's applicable to a lot of things in real life in general here, but how many fans of something, whether it be a music band or any other equivalent thing, would actually be willing and able to attend a live concert of said band if they were able to? Because even a couple decades or so ago, I mean, fans of music bands can't be anywhere or everywhere all at once for any of their live showings. So just because you only see like 100 or so people in this particular location, that's not necessarily an indication that the amount of fans that this band actually has is actually quite small. It could just be that these are all the people that happened to be close enough to this particular venue who were interested to see a live concert of the band and so decided to attend. And everyone else is just waiting for the people who actually attended the concerts to share any information about what is being sung online on those forums. So the actual number of fans, I would probably wager, is somewhere at least within the 4,000 range. Sorry, the 4-digit range. More like, or maybe 5. I don't know where I got 4,000 from, but either the 1,000 or tens of thousands digit is probably the least amount that actually exists in reality, if I had to guess. Just pulling a random approximation out of my bumhole. Okay, moving on. Regardless, they were all inside the building now. The concert had already begun, but since none of the audio managed to bleed outside, it certainly didn't feel like it. You're right there, buddy. I saw a brief flash of red. My heart palpitations had gone away after I'd fallen asleep yesterday, but they'd come back with a vengeance the second I arrived in front of the venue. It'd been so hard to breathe. I almost thought I was dealing with some kind of heart failure. But really, I knew exactly why it was so bad. This place was filled with a thick, impenetrable darkness. The demon girl and her underlings could be lurking around any corner. Knowing that, I'd been on the lookout for anyone that might attack me ever since I got here. Speaking of pink hair, another thing that I've been pondering about ever since the last episode is why was Takumi, after we were able to enhance the image in a photo editor, able to find himself within that image of the crucifixion murder, but there was no sign of the girl herself? Why wasn't she anywhere within the picture? I feel like that's significant somehow. Although whatever answer I may have on here, it would just be pure speculation on my part with no evidence to back it up. And the only no evidence theory I can come up with is, well, maybe she doesn't actually exist. Maybe she's just a walking delusion that Takumi conjured up here as he stumbled across that murder. But then that would beg the question: why would he create such a delusion right before seeing that murder to begin with? So it just creates more questions in my mind the more I think about it, if I just go with the assumption that that girl isn't real. So I think it'd be better for me to just wait until I can get some more concrete answers on at least this girl before I form any theories that might have some solid foundation to them. The sheer anxiety and paranoia was comparable to what felt like going through the Wan's Van dungeon in ESO. Wan's Volcano dungeon, excuse me. Mobs in the Wan's Volcano dungeon were OP as hell, and it was surrounded by the kind of lava that insta-killed you if you so much as clipped it with your pinky toe. That shit couldn't have been play-tested. The amount of times I died there. Holy hell. I wiped the sweat off my forehead with a hand towel and gulped down a gob of saliva. Right as I did, the door at the top of the stairs opened, and the furious beating of drums reverberated from inside Gigantes for a few seconds. A single guy exited from the door. He jogged nimbly down the stairs, and then toward me.
Yo, Taku. Matta ka?
What are you doing here? I had invited Misumi-kun to go to the venue with me. Okay, that's why. Yeah, I guess you would invite him if you could, so it would make it easier for you to actually go to a social venue like this, huh? As I didn't know his phone number, I've been forced to go to school today just to ask him to go. If he hadn't come with me, I probably wouldn't have made it this far. Even if I'd somehow forced myself to go in the building alone, If the demon girl was there, it would be a certified game over. Well, I can't imagine this guy would be that effective of a meat shield for you. Know what I mean? I could totally see him losing his marbles and just running at the sight of knife-wielding maniac walking in his general direction. He kind of rubs me off as a pretty cowardly type. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just a poor judge of character. At least when it comes to him. So I had Misumi-kun operate as a scout. I did feel bad about throwing him into the line of fire, so I obviously hadn't told him about that part. If you feel so bad, why don't you get in front? Be brave. The only people I could rely on were him and Nanami. So I picked the less annoying of the two. Misumi-kun. I even covered his ticket cost. So in a sense, you could say I'd hired him for 1,000 yen.
ほらよ、これ CD な。俺自分の分も買っちまったよ。
Misumi-kun handed me a Phantasm album. They were being sold for an outrageous premium in online auctions, but I'd heard on an @ channel that they were also available at their concerts, so I asked Misumi-kun to buy one for me. And now that I had one, I'd achieved half the goals I'd set out for myself. As for the remaining half...
いやー、予想以上にいいな、ファンタズムって。
Misumi-kun had been acting pretty excited ever since he'd exited the venue.
俺、あんまミーハーになりたくなかったんで聞こうとしなかったんだけどよ。今日ちょっと生で聞いただけでファンになっちまった。
The other thing I asked Misumi-kun to do was report anything in particular that stood out about the band members. I knew they would all come out on stage once the concert started, so all I'd wanted him to do was a quick scan, then head back to me right after. And yet, despite my very specific instructions, he hadn't come back for a full 5 minutes after the show started. This was probably because he'd listened to the entirety of the first song.
特にボーカル、ありゃマジでいい女だぜ。お前、女見る目あるな。
I sighed internally, thinking with the wrong head like usual. Why was I even surprised? So much for I'm no sheep. That's not sheep,
どんな人だった？
that's not sheep, that's horn dog.
ああ、そっか。報告な。なんか探偵みてえで面白いな。そう思わねえ？
Misumi-kun grinned to himself, and I pressed him again to tell me about FES's appearance.
髪型はショートカットだった。
Mm-hmm. And just like that, there was already a huge discrepancy. Did that mean FES wasn't the demon girl? Well, she could have gotten a haircut. No, wait. I couldn't let myself jump to conclusions here. She could have cut her hair, or she could have used hair extensions, or she could have changed it in some other way. It wouldn't surprise me if she'd been disguised when I seen her at the crime scene. Yeah, that's what that was. A disguise. Hair extension, also known as a hairpiece, a type of hair accessory, is a patch of artificial hair worn primarily by women for fashion purposes, or for cosplay.
スタイルがすっげえ良くて、あと背が高かったな。ありゃ俺と同じぐらいはあるんじゃねえの？
背が
And at the same height as you. Misumi-kun and I were about the same height, which meant FES was probably around 170 centimeters tall. Pretty tall for a girl. But I hadn't gotten that impression at all when I encountered the demon girl. Maybe my memories were from back then were hazy, but I still felt like the demon girl had been shorter than me. Maybe she's wearing stilts right now. Yet another thing that didn't line up then.
他には
そうだな。アンニュイな雰囲気してたな。
Well, given the type of band that she's a part of, doesn't surprise me.
声はクールってイメージかな。結構ボソボソと喋るタイプだった。胸のサイズはまあまあ。でもゴスパンの服は妙な色気があったぜ。ああいうのもありだな。断然あり。
Ah, into goth chicks, are we? Oh, god damn it. Every single word he said was completely fucking useless. I disagree. Seems to me like it kind of matches up with everything I remember seeing of that girl on the bridge. That FES. Except for the Gotha makeup, at least. Well, outfit, rather, but whatever. Then again, I only got a quick look at the demon girl, so I couldn't exactly list her features. This plan was horribly doomed from the start.
いうかよ。そんなにフェスに興味あるなら自分の目で見ればいいじゃねえか。ほら、行こうぜ。
Hey now, he's talking sense. Misumi-kun began to push me from behind, forcing me to go up the stairs to Gigante's. I desperately tried to fight back, but Misumi-kun was stronger than me. I couldn't get away.
見たいんだろ、フェスの顔を。素直になるって。浮気ってのも男の差がだよな。たくも大人になったもんだぜ。
No comment.
この前一緒に帰ってたメガネの子のことは今夜だけは気にすんなって。俺も田中のことは忘れるからよ。
Well, I feel bad for Tanaka. What the hell is he talking about? I tried to stand my ground and fight back, but to my horror, I realized I was already at the top of the stairs. Weakling. While I was only the second floor, if I were to slip and fall, it would hurt like hell. Just the thought made me stop resisting as hard. And in that moment of weakness, my entire body weight was sent crashing through the door and into the venue. Here we go. The second I hit the inside, an explosion of sound blasted my eardrums. I never experienced something so loud before. Even the pit of my stomach was being forcibly shaken by the vibrations. It was so intense, it felt as if my entire body was being crushed to pieces. There were no seats in the venue. Everyone was standing up to watch. They were all rocking their bodies in rhythm with each other, shouting, "FES! FES! FES!" as their fists shot up and down. Still nowhere near the level of Wotage performance, though. Now, what's this? Wotage. A unique cheer or performance that a selection of fans enact at idol concerts and other live shows. Some performances include very intense physical movements, with each and every one of the movements having a specific name to them. Fans and an audience performing Wotage in perfect coordination is a sight to behold. The heat was devastating. It made me want to vomit. I might have been an otaku, but I was definitely not the type to obsess over idols or voice actors. Honestly, I hated this kind of atmosphere. I think I'm gonna lower the volume with just a smidge. Sound settings. And, okay, hopefully that will make a bit of a difference. I could tell I stuck out like a sore thumb, but thankfully, nobody was paying any attention to me. There were so many people in front of me, I could barely see the stage at the far end of the room. Just the blinding stage lights, and the faint figures of 4 people standing under them. And as I was getting overwhelmed by everything happening around me, Misumi-kun handed me a plastic cup of soda. Seems like Misumi-kun had paid for my ticket, too. I have to make sure to pay him back later. Before I knew it, the song was over. The audience clapped and cheered. Then, having seemingly calmed down a little, everyone brought down their fists. Thanks to that, the road to the stage finally opened up, and I was able to see it clearly. I got a good look at the short-haired girl standing in the middle of the stage. She was definitely not the demon girl.
今日はいつもより調子いいわ。声がクリアに聞こえる。世界がとても澄んでいる。
The voice coming through the amp sounded nothing like the demon girl that had said those cryptic words to me. Misumi-kun was right. FES definitely had an aloof vibe to her. Despite her short hair, she didn't feel boyish. She gave off this mysterious aura with a mix of charm, allure, and a hint of distance. And to top it all off, the silver accessories she was wearing all glittered fantastically as they reflected the lights. It felt like I was starting to understand why there were so many threads about her on @channel. In this kind of concert, I'd always thought that the band members would be more energetic, but FES seemed incredibly indifferent during the intermission. She probably actually is. She was pretty much the exact opposite of the excited audience. Maybe that was just the type of person she was. But it seemed like the audience wasn't surprised by that. They just stayed silent during the break, listening closely to FES's words.
呼吸と性の門が閉じているからかもしれない。
Now, there's a word I have heard before, cocutus, but I don't remember what it is. Perhaps you can refresh my memory. Cocutus in Greek mythology, that's right, it's from Greece. In Greek mythology, it is one of the two rivers located at the entrance to the underworld. The name translates to River of Lamentation. The dead cross this river in order to enter the underworld. Yeah, I remember now. Thank you. I'm sorry, what? Cocutus? What language was she even speaking? Greece, buddy! Educate yourself.
世界の均衡は大いなる意志が生まれてから数千年間保たれていた。でも今、それは崩れつつある。とても不安定。だから、私は歌うわ。君たちのカオスを受け入れてあげる。
Oh. I guess they were a goth punk band, so the band members probably had characters that they played. Maybe it was an easy way to win over the hearts of fans. Just spout some random nonsense that hinted that it might mean something, giving it enough mystique to keep people engrossed. Joke's on all of you then, because I think it does mean something. Speaking of mystique, FES was holding something strange in her hand. In her left hand was a plain old mic, but in the other, she was holding some sort of weirdly shaped mic stand. It looked kind of like a sword. It was shaped so elegantly, it felt sinister. It looked so sharp that if you even so much as grazed it, it would slice your finger in two. It was huge, too. As tall as FES, in fact. There were also lines of glass embedded into it, which glowed with an ominous blue light. Interesting little gadget she has. Can I see it? I couldn't tell if it was really a sword or not, but either way, it wasn't half as bad a character accessory. No complaints there. I was strangely captivated by it. Then, using only her right arm, FES casually lifted the huge mic stand. and with an underhanded grip, she swung it sideways. The blue light from the glass drew a wide arc with its afterglow. What the hell? That was so dangerous. What if it hit someone in the crowd? That wasn't a mic stand. Could it be a sword? And every night, she would use it to cut the throat of some poor audience member, harvesting blood offered to the demon girl. Or something. Now, don't let your imagination run wild with you. So was this concert actually some sort of black mass organized by a bunch of witches? A fierce chill ran down my spine just thinking about it. Goosebumps covered my entire body. I should really get out of here ASAP. But the moment I thought that, FES let out a gentle whisper.
次は3曲目。密教の首飾り。
The necklace of Vajrayana? What is that? I'm gonna look that up real fast. Vajrayana. Vajrayana, also known as Mantrayana, Guhyamantrayana, Tantrayana, Secret Mantra, Tantric Buddhism, and Ascetic Buddhism, is a Buddhist tradition of Tantric practice that is developed in the medieval Indian subcontinent and spread to Tibet, Nepal, and other Himalayan states, East Asia, and Mongolia. Vajrayana practices are connected to specific lineages in Buddhism through the teachings of lineage holders. Others might generally refer to these texts as the Buddhist Tantras. It includes practices that make use of mantras, dharanis, mudras, mandalas, and the visualizations of deities and Buddhas. I want to apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciation on these words. I mean, a lot of these are words I've never read before. Traditional Vajrayana sources say that the Tantras in the lineage of Vajrayana were taught by Sakya Muni Buddha and other figures, such as the Bodhista, whatever, you guys can read on the screen. On the other hand, contemporary historians of Buddhist studies argue that Vajrayana does not predate the Tantric era of medieval India. According to Vajrayana scriptures, the term Vairagya refers to one of three vehicles or routes to enlightenment, the other two being Shravakhyana, also known pejoratively as the Hinayana, and the Mahayana, aka Paramitayana. There are several Buddhist Tantric traditions that are currently practiced, including Tibetan Buddhism, Chinese Esoteric Buddhism, Shingon Buddhism, and Nuar Buddhism. So, all that out of the way. So, this is a song about a necklace that supposedly gives you enlightenment in the Buddhist tradition. Fascinating. The crowd let out a huge cry of joy upon hearing that. A moment later, the members of Phantasm all started playing, and a second flood of sound poured into my ears. Hold on. That sword that she's wielding kind of looks like that weapon that pink-haired girl had in the beginning cinematic. thunderous roar came from the speakers. A roar that felt like it was going to blow out my eardrums. How had these people not gone deaf yet, hanging out in places like this all the time? Looking to my side, I noticed Misumi-kun was fully into it, pumping his fist in sync with the rest of the audience. The intro ended. FES began to sing. And when I heard the lyrics, I swallowed hard. She was singing the prophetic song that had been posted all over @channel. It was a dark piece that didn't feel the slightest bit optimistic. Even its melody felt like a religious song, and the lyrics definitely didn't help. Everyone was getting riled up at first, but as the song went on, the excitement dropped further and further. And by the end, everyone just stood there, not saying a word. But that was because everyone was fully lost in the sound. Some of them just stared at FES, completely entranced. There was definitely something about FES's singing voice that captivated people. Even as I battled fear and nausea in the middle of the crowd, I found myself listening very closely to her song, not wanting to miss it. Goosebumps sprang up all over me. For a moment, it felt like the air itself had frozen over. The song ended. FES was looking down at the stage, swaying her body from side to side as she soaked in the last echoes of the music. And then, she suddenly looked back up. Without even gazing around for a second, she instantly... Oh, hello, we got another delusion trigger. Looked at me. And it wasn't like she just glanced in the general direction of my eyes, or like she briefly made contact with me or anything like that. What do I want to go with here? Green or red? FES was blatantly looking right at me. I'd even go as far as to say she was staring at me, fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within my heart. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet, somehow she seemed a little sad. I'm gonna go with red. Before I knew it, I was slowly walking on a rooftop, all alone. The wind was extremely strong, blowing raindrops into me from the side. What was strange, though, was that I didn't feel cold. I remembered this place. It felt like I had been there many times before. Oh, I knew where I was now. This dreary scenery surrounded by a fence. It was the school rooftop. I took a look around me. But the rain had made everything so hazy. I couldn't make out anything. It was surreal. It felt like the world itself had become blurred. I can't tell if that's a school uniform that you got there, or something else. Beyond the haze, on the other side of the fence, was FES. She was standing there facing me. She was soaking wet. Don't jump. She was looking straight at me, just like at the concert. and in her right arm, just like before, she was gripping that sword-like mic stand tightly. The wind blowing from below sent FES's soaked hair fluttering furiously in the air. If she even slightly lost her balance, she would definitely fall. And at this height, that would have been a death sentence. Just looking at her made me stop dead in my tracks. And yet, despite where she was, FES stood tall, without the slightest hint of fear in her eyes. On the verge of tears, FES gently extended her left hand toward me. Let's jump off, together. It was almost as if she was asking me to go with her, trying to seduce me. I couldn't give any response. I had no idea what to do. FES said nothing back to me either. She just spread her arms out wide, taking on a pose as if she'd been crucified. Suddenly, the rain and the wind stopped. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Nothing would come out of my mouth. FES's body slowly tilted backward. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I tried to reach out toward FES, but my own movements were in slow motion too, so I could only look on in frustration as my arms slowly extended out in front of me. FES was already closing her eyes, and not long after, her figure disappeared from my line of sight.
Utsuda.
When did we get back here? I've been getting lost in my own delusions as usual, but it had all gone south pretty quickly. Well, that just goes to show how strong the aura FES gave off truly was. She sort of had this sense of ruinous beauty to her. That said, I didn't have the slightest fucking clue what ruinous beauty was supposed to mean, though. Lololo. Okay, sorry, Saz. Okay, Saz. Lemeo. In the end, I got sick from the size of the crowd at that concert, so I had to rush to leave the venue. As a result, I barely watched any of the performance at all. And honestly, I never wanted to go ever again. Well then, guess I'll log on to ESO or something. That ought to rid me of this depression. Did I make the right call? Choosing the red option? I don't want anyone to tell me. I'm just wondering aloud right now. Because right now I'm not so sure I did. To me, ESO was my life. It was my happy place. A breath of fresh air that let me forget all about the real world. As long as I could immerse myself in ESO, I could forget about all my troubles. I could stop being me, instead wander Baselard as Neidhart. But today, for some reason, Neidhart was a little off. Yes, I knew that he relied entirely on my inputs and decisions, but somehow, I found myself struggling to pull off things I could normally do with my eyes closed. This game was supposed to be a breath of fresh air, but today, the more I played it, the more irritated I got.
なんだよこいつ捨てるぞお前
I knew it was all my fault, but I still took my anger out on Neidhart.
ああもうムカつく
I yanked at my hair and kicked the bare steel wall. Careful now, you don't want to stub your toes, do you? Having let out all my anger, I took a deep breath and sat back down in my chair. I stared vacantly at my monitor. Neidhart was just standing there, facing towards the gates of the city of Shangri-Lu, free of my control. His back was facing toward me, just as it always was when I fought enemies. And of course, he was at the maximum level.
僕の経験値っていくつなんだろう。
Negative 69. I had the human known as Nishijo Takumi leveled up even slightly since he started playing ESO? No, ever since he'd been born. I'd argue you've been regressing. If I had, then why was I still so bad at talking to people, even though I was nearly an adult? Why was I borderline shut-in? If I didn't log in as Neidhart for weeks, would he also turn into a shut-in like me? I guess technically he would. Whose eyes are those eyes? I suddenly remembered those words as I stared at Neidhart's back. I was mildly interested in what Neidhart would do when I wasn't controlling him. So, figuring I'd observe him for a little bit, I left my keyboard alone as I ate some chips.
もしナイトハルトに自我があるとしたら。
Then surely he'd waltz right into the city of Shangri-Lu, wind blowing against his shoulders, right? No, that's what you would do. After all, he's just your avatar, but if he was his own individual being that had his own ego, well, who knows? He was the hero everyone worshipped, after all. Oh, we got another one already.
ねえ、ナイトハルト。僕はいつでもお前を見てるんだぞ。お前はそれに気づいてるの。
Ah, shit, I forgot to... Damn it. And then... Damn it, I thought I had more lines than that. Without me even touching the keyboard, Neidhart, who'd been standing with his back to me, suddenly turned toward me. Or so it felt. Lol, fuck you!
なんつって。
In the end, I stared vacantly at the monitor for over an hour, but Neidhart stayed completely still the entire time. Okay, here's what I'm going to do from now on. Anytime a new delusion trigger shows up, even if I'm not completely certain on which choice I want to go with, the second it shows up, I'm just going to immediately pick something based on gut instinct. And if I read any additional lines that makes me want to reconsider changing my choice, I'll do it if I have time to. Otherwise, I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I reluctantly decided to go to school today, but before I knew it, I found myself going to buy a phone with my little sister. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I really don't understand it either. I thought I was going insane. This is a tip? This whole line. I thought I was going insane. Short for the full quote, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I blank, but before I knew it, blank. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't really understand it either. I thought I was going insane. It wasn't anything simple, like hypnosis or super speed. On top of that, I feel as if I only got to experience the tip of the iceberg. A quotation from a popular manga about bizarre adventures. What, JoJo's? Often used in order to cope with difficult to understand situations in a comedic fashion.
お兄何ブツブツ言ってんの？
それよりほら、この騎士はどうかって聞いてるんだけど。
Well, Takumi, she asked you a question. What do you think of it? I think I want to go home. You're such a poor sport. Besides, how many times do I have to tell you that I don't need a cell phone? God, it hurts having a sister this brain dead. She knows that you don't. She knows what you think, but she thinks she knows better. So, I mean, deal with it, my friend. And chances are she's right. I think you really could benefit from having a cell phone. Especially now. When I got into school today, Nanami had made her assault right in my classroom. After happily saying, "Wow, you actually came to school today," she ordered me to go out and buy a phone for her once school was over. And like the pushover you are, you went along with it. Once the bell rang, I tried to escape without her noticing, but I'd forgotten how quick Nanami was on her feet. So, after being chased and easily caught up to, I found myself being dragged all the way to the front of the station. I didn't want to go anywhere near the station. I felt like that the whole way there. Even now, I already felt like I was going to throw up. Nanami, though, not giving a damn about what I felt, was busy admiring the many different models on display in front of the store. I tried to wrap my head around why exactly Nanami was so insistent about getting me a phone, but I just got a headache instead.
これ色が結構可愛いじゃん。いいと思うな。
Since she was asking for my opinion, I gave a simple reply.
それっていい？
でもな、お兄にはちょっと可愛すぎかも。似合わなさそう。
See, it didn't matter what I said. That would happen regardless. I completely lost track how many times I said that's fine by this point. You know, I do kind of feel your pain there, so I'll take it easy on you over this one. She would ask for my opinion, but she didn't actually intend to listen to it. This was exactly why 3 girls sucked so much ass.
お兄大丈夫？やっぱり人の多さにやられちゃった？マクディで休もうか？
MCD? The fucking prime hangout for Dokuns? That place was hell incarnate! I violently shook my head no.
そっか。じゃあなるべく早めに決めるね。でもちょっと迷っちゃっててさ。
I sighed, deciding to just leave Nanami behind and go home. While Nanami intensely examined the array of cell phones, I took my chance to slip away. Right as I turned toward 107, I saw something so strange, it stopped me dead in my tracks. Yeah, I agree. The maple definitely does look fishy. What was that? Across the crowds of people, on the stairs to 107, stood a girl that stuck out like a sore thumb. Was she holding a sword? Well, is it FES by any chance? The color and aura it gave off felt somewhat similar to the mic stand FES had been using at the concert. In fact, I'd say it was perfectly fair to think of them in the same vein. But even then, it was still one massive sword. It might have been even longer than FES's mic stand. To my surprise, the girl was wearing a Sume uniform. I couldn't make out her face from this distance, but despite holding something so conspicuous, the girl seemed relaxed as could be. She simply watched the people walk down the street from atop the stairs. Talk about bravery. I'm seriously impressed. I couldn't believe she was walking around right smack in the middle of Shibuya with that massive toy sword. Must have been one hell of a humiliation fetish. Let's hope that's all this is. Otherwise, I have a feeling something very bad is about to happen. Was the sword a cosplay prop from some new anime? Then again, I was pretty familiar with all the anime that were airing. Was there really a series of a sword like that? Had slipped under my radar? Of course, walking around Shibuya holding one would be too much for me, but the sword itself was pretty damn cool. Kinda wanted to get one, honestly. I wonder if I could get one in Akiba. Even better if I could order it online.
Oni?
Uh-oh, she caught up with us. I was suddenly struck with an elbow to the back. The pain almost made me black out and collapse on the spot. I turned around to find Nanami for hands on her hips, sullen as could be.
もしかして逃げようとした？確かにナナが選ぶのに時間かけすぎたのは悪いと思うけどさ。だからってナナを置き去りにして逃げようとするなんてひどいよ。
I don't think he cares, unfortunately. I lazily shook my head from side to side.
お兄のバカ！携帯の電磁波の浴びすぎで腎臓を悪くして死んじゃえ！
That would certainly be a deserving death for him. I'm not gonna lie. Electromagnetic waves. Waves that exhibit properties of both electricity and magnetism. First formally postulated by James Clerk Maxwell in 1864. The electric field and magnetic field oscillations cause them to manually propagate each other, resulting in a wave that radiates through its surroundings. For that reason, these waves are referred to as electromagnetic radiation. Electromagnetic radiation, EM waves are divided by frequency into radio waves, infrared light, visible light, X-rays, ultraviolet light, and gamma rays. Electromagnetic waves have long been thought to have harmful effects on the human body, but the World Health Organization has made a statement claiming that there is no scientific foundation behind the idea, nor any evidence that supports a causal relation between the two. However, there is currently no evidence that disproves a relationship either. I'm gonna lower the volume on the music just a smidge more. Yeah, I think this is good enough right here. Fuck was her deal? You jackass.
一生懸命お兄のために選んであげてたナナがバカみたいじゃん。こうなったらもう適当に決める。お兄なんてナナと同じ機種で十分だよ。
Nanami forcefully grabbed my arm.
本気で今日契約するんだからね。それまで絶対逃がさない。
わかったよ。話せよ。
わかったならさっさと来て。
I didn't have a clue why Nanami had gotten so worked up. She really was a pain in the ass because you're just so difficult. You're like a little kid. In the end, Nanami picked out a model with ease, as if she hadn't just spent 10 years trying to choose. After spending around an hour on the contract and other technical stuff, I tried to finally head back home with my phone, but Nanami stopped me.
ナナが初期設定してあげるからマクディやろ。
Without waiting for a response, she grabbed me by the back of my collar and started dragging me to the nearest MCD against my will.
どうせお兄携帯持って帰っても電源入れずにほったらかしにするに決まってるんだから。ナナがちゃんと使えるようにしてあげる。
God damn it, how much longer was she planning to hold me hostage? And out of all the places she could have chosen to do it, why MCD? You know, I think I'm just now remembering MCD is supposed to be this world's equivalent of McDonald's, so I'm just going to call it McDonald's. The inside of the Shibuya McDonald's was the embodiment of chaos. There were shitloads of people, none of them ever shut the hell up. The sheer amount of dokyuns was off the charts. At the table right next to us sat 3 Dokun tier mothers with dyed brown hair. And to make things even better, they brought their kids with them. They just left their children, 3 little crotch goblins with red highlights, to be specific, to run around the restaurant squealing their heads off. And instead of controlling them, they just kept on chatting. They just kept on chatting away. Okay, I will admit that is just irresponsible. That is plain irresponsible parenting. You should keep an eye on what your children are doing. At a different table was yet another group of Dokuns. This time made up of 4 high school guys, all laughing like obnoxious pricks. Next, 2 high school girls, complete with baggy socks and dyed brown hair, sat opposite to each other, hyper-focused on their phones. They didn't even bother talking. Beside them was a snoring middle-aged businessman slumped down on his table, making it pretty obvious that he was skipping out on work. But what really made me double-take was this table close by of a group of 5 elementary schoolers. Some boys, some girls. They all sat there with their little school bags on the floor, happily chatting up with each other as their legs swung back and forth beneath the table. So, considering that it was a co-ed, was it a mixer? It was, wasn't it? Weren't they elementary schoolers? Well, regardless, the point is that they, as far as the eye could see, there were groups of people that I avoided like the plague. Nanami had no problem at all relaxing at a place like this. Me, on the other hand, just setting foot in here only served to make my headache and nausea 1,000 times worse. Well, to be fair, it's not like I typically enjoy going into restaurants either. Well, at least fast food. Wait, why the hell did I have to play along my sister and stay here in the first place?
ねえねえ、着信メロディーはどうする？なんか希望ある？
Without even looking in my direction, Nanami played around with my phone as she prodded me for an answer. Well, assuming he can't get the Metal Gear codec ringtone, I would suggest the Power Rangers theme song.
Agison.
Well, Power Rangers is an anime, so I guess that's out of the book.
キャッカー。そんなだからお兄はオタクさんなんだよ。
You're the one asking me what I prefer. Come on, it's my phone, so at least let me pick what I want.
あ、そうだ。大村彼らも新曲にしたら？あれすっごくいい曲だよ。最近のナナのお気に入り。
Are we making this phone for him or for you?
それこそ却下だ。
うん、まあ、お兄に大村彼らは似合わないか。
After showing how little she actually cared about what I thought, Nanami took a bite of one of her french fries. I should probably mention that this bitch asked for a fish sandwich combo before dinner. One that I had to pay for. Oh, the sheer audacity of this little wench. How dare she? She should be hanged for this. Said no one. Calm down, son. I, meanwhile, was feeling so garbage that my appetite was long gone. Piece of shit sister spoiling her appetite and mine. Fucking bullshit.
あ、そうそう。それとね。
For whatever reason, Nanami placed her bag on her lap and started digging through its contents.
お、あったあった。
Then, she proudly took out...
ゲロカエルの不良品。
How generous of you to give me a Jiro Froggy.
不良品じゃないよ。先週出たギョロリゲロカエル。
Goggling Jiro Froggy?
は？
知らないんだ。やっぱ遅れてるな、お兄は。 ゲロカエルンって毎週金曜日に新作が発売されてるんだよ。
Of course they do. It's just basically a collectible item.
もう全部で12種類ぐらいあるんだから。
Seriously? Was there really enough demand for weekly releases? Apparently so.
ナナが携帯につけてるのは最初に出た普通のゲロカエルンでしょ。で、次がデブッチョゲロカエルンで、その次がカクカクゲロカエルン。
I want to see what the rugged one looks like. Without skipping a beat, Nanami recited the names of the various Girafroggies.
第4弾がのっぺらゲロカエルンで、第5弾が輝くゲロカエルン。
Never mind, I want to see smooth.
第6弾が一番人気があって、猫ゲロカエルンっていうの。
A cat frog. Genius! Whoever came up with that was just pure genius!
その後が幽霊ゲロカエルン、眠るゲロカエルン、燃えるゲロカエルン、ゾンビゲロカエルン、酔っ払いゲロカエルン。
Is the burning Girafroggy just have a little fabric flames on him, and does the drunk one have a bottle of sake? How the hell does she remember all those? Hang on, had she?
お前コンプリートしてるの？
もちろんだよ。全部集めなきゃ意味ないもん。毎週買うのに行列ができるんだからね。
I think I'd rather collect Pokemon, personally. For a half-assed piece of garbage like that? To be honest, even I could shit out a better design. Yeah, no you can't. You're not that creative. Wait, why had she even decided to start lecturing me on Girafroggies to begin with? Probably because she's looking to give you one.
というわけで、このギョロリゲロカエルンあげる。
え、なんで？
このストラップを携帯につければ、少しは女子から「お、やるな」っていう目で見てもらえるから。
Well, I have a feeling that what's more likely going to happen is that they're going to make fun of him for it. After saying that, Nanami started to put the strap on my phone. I don't want that. The fuck?
コンプしなきゃ意味ないんだろ。僕がそれもらったらお前揃わないぞ。
心配しなくても大丈夫。2つ買ったもん。
毎回2つ買ってるのか？
I was starting to seriously doubt her aesthetic taste. Better than... Oh. No, never mind.
今回だけだよ。お兄の携帯用に余分に買ったの。
わざわざ。
わざわざ。
That's just so cute. We could have matching froggies. Having now finished attaching the strap, Nanami gave a satisfied nod before wrapping her mouth around her soda straw. Then, she suddenly leaned forward, startling me.
別に並んだのはお兄のためじゃないよ。あくまでついでなんだから。
Okay, I believe you.
いらない。
はあ？
Still leaning forward, Nanami opened her eyes wide. She looked like she might throttle me at any moment. Do it. Throttle the shut in. Wring his neck. Like a freaking chicken.
いらないって。ナナがわざわざ買ってきてあげたのに。
ついでだったんだろ。っていうか、僕ゲロカエルンとか興味ないし、むしろキモいし。
だからお兄は女子にモテないんだよ。
I almost expected her to slap me, but surprisingly, Nanami managed to rein in her temper and sit back down. Then, instead of taking her anger out on me, she started nibbling on a fry instead as she sulked.
でも抵抗しても無駄だからね。ギョロリゲロカエルンもうくっつけちゃったもん。
She sure was acting like the queen of everything. Then again, I knew jack shit about cell phones, so it was true that Nanami knew best to hear.
もし勝手に外したら 毎週並んでもらうの K だからね。
並ぶって何に？
決まってんじゃん。新作ゲロカエルンを買うための行列。2時間待ちとか普通だから。
2 hours in line for a little froggy. Now, that I will admit, that does take some serious dedication. Not a chance in hell. No way I was gonna let my sister hit me with a threat like that. For a while after that, Nanami wordlessly continued to fiddle around with my phone. I wasn't particularly picky about whatever she was setting up, so I was honestly grateful for the silence.
なんだか変な気分だな。
The next time she opened her mouth, her sullen demeanor from before had completely disappeared. I guess she only needed a few minutes to forget annoying shit instead of having to sleep it off. Well, that's good. She has better fortitude than you do. Talk about easy going. In a way, I envied her.
うん、やっぱ変だよ。お兄とこうして2人で出かけるのって久しぶりな気がするもん。いつ以来かな。よく思い出せないや。お兄はいっつも部屋にこもってアニメ見てるかゲームしてるかだもんね。ま、たまにはこういうのもいいかな、新鮮で。さすがに毎日はナナも嫌だけど。
That's just the cutest burger eating face I've seen in a good long time. This just brings such joy to my cold dead heart, seeing this. Nanami placed my phone on the table and picked up her fish sandwich. She happily undid the wrapping, then heartily sank her teeth into it. She looks more like a cat taking a nibble of something. Come to think of it, I feel like she said at one point that the fish sandwich here was her favorite food.
せいぜい太るがいいさ。
Nanami instantly stopped moving. Did you just say that out loud? Oh no! Oh boy, this could be entertaining. She glared at me menacingly. Then, after hesitating for a second, she bashfully held out her half-eaten fish sandwich.
半分食べる？
Not the reaction I was expecting.
もう手遅れだよ。うん。
そういうこと言うと上司に嫌われるって覚えといた方がいいよ、バカ鬼。
Nanami ended up finishing the fish sandwich all on her own. What a fucking fat ass. What the hell do we have here? Judgment is nigh for this city. Okay, I believe you. After that, Nanami held me hostage with hours of useless chatter. And by the time I finally had my phone back, it was already dark. It had been a long, painful few hours. But eventually, I was able to get away from Nanami and start heading back home. Fall seemed to be in full swing now, with the night breeze carrying a slight chill, one that soothed my headache and nausea. Those two things never failed to torment me whenever I spent a long time in crowds. Honestly, Nanami. Kiss. Oh, kill yourself. Actually, okay, don't actually, but still. Kill yourself. She only ever thought about herself. This guy is just so self-centered. It's just honestly pathetic. I thought Kyosuke was bad. She probably didn't even have a clue about how much torture she constantly inflicted on me. If I had the option, I'd love to snap my new phone cleanly in half right now and throw it into the nearest trash can. It wasn't like I'd bought it with my own money after all. But if I actually did that, it'd just be Nanami that'd come to my base, but my parents too. And then, without picking up on a damn thing, they just go, oh, since it broke on you, let's go and buy you a new one. Like the idiots they were. Thus, I reluctantly suppressed my urges to smash the damn thing. I needed to get home, and quickly. I could hear another night of ESO calling my name. Not a single day has passed recently that hadn't filled me with endless anxiety. I really hoped my peaceful everyday life would hurry up and come back already. It ain't coming back. On that night, another grotesque case occurred. The 4th New Gen case. Like always, Grim laid out details to me when I was playing ESO. Sup, Grim? A bit later than usual today, eh? Whose eyes are those eyes? Why are you saying those to me? I couldn't believe my eyes. You mean you couldn't believe those eyes? Why did Grim know that phrase? I was completely taken aback. My fingers trembled on the keyboard. I didn't even know where to start with responding. Hell, even just looking at that, what he typed nearly took everything out of me. Well, if I had to guess why he's saying this, it's probably because that phrase was written somewhere at the crime scene of this new murder. Probably in blood. The 4th New Gen case happened. Been following the shitstorm this whole time. This one's seriously fucking crazy, dude. Victim's corpse had the blood completely drained out. They found him dead in Ino Kashira Station bathroom, and the corpse was really something. His skin had turned green all over. Freaky. Seriously goddamn freaky. I've been starting to think the occult theories might be even true. Come on, I wasn't even done reading that. So, blood drained, and he turned into a green-skinned zombie. That's definitely not good. Kind of morbid, so far, but I bet that's not all there is to it. I bit my lip as I watched the messages flow. My imagination came very close to forming an image, but I was just barely able to keep that delusion at bay. I took a gulp of cola from the bottle to calm myself somewhat. Damn that Grim. He had to be ambushing me like this on purpose. There's no way a person could do this. Eh? No reaction? Here's a reaction. Seltzer water. How do you know so much about it? You're almost talking like you were there. Well, something like that. Also, I guess you're still interested in this stuff, Neidhart? New Gen and all that jazz? What do you mean by something like that? Did you witness it, or something? Not enough to follow it. Too busy grinding in ESO. Never change, oh lightning fast Neidhart. A true video game addict that puts the rest of us to shame. That's why we love you. That's why we love you. Short for the full quote. That's why we love you. That's why we admire you. A quotation from a popular manga about bizarre adventures. JoJo's. Used to express awe at someone's capabilities. Often used sarcastically in reference to negative character traits such as pettiness. And video game addict. A term used to refer to someone that stays in their room and constantly plays video games for exceedingly long periods of time, often foregoing food, sleep, etc. Nonsense! Internet cafes are a thing. Plus portable gaming handhelds. You can forgo to eat food and play video games all day, every day, anywhere, if you put your mind to it. Isn't modern day technology grand? I didn't really want to talk about New Gen, so I somehow managed to fool Grimm into bringing the topic to an end. By the way, take a look at this. Oh no. Auctions taboo. What do you think? I'm sensing some serious B8. B8. Or, bait. In fishing, it means to add bait to a hook. In net slang, however, it means to bait out reactions from people via posting provocative opinions or false information. The term doing the baiting then enjoys watching the reactions should the victim take the bait, often abbreviated as bait. Must be the old term for trolling. Last time he done this, he acted like it was some gory shit, only for it to be some random dumbass meme. This time could very well be the opposite. One way to find out, am I right? Huh. You seriously don't know about it? About what? Are you actually a wrong-sider, Nineheart? Fuck off. Fine, what is it? What if I said it's related to your precious Saratan? For real? Then I had to look. Now he's baiting you. As far as I could tell, the URL looked like it was linked to some auction page, so it probably wouldn't crash my browser or hit me if anything mentally scarring. I have a feeling it's going to. Crashing. When a program or operating system stops functioning and closes. A number of web pages are designed to overload web browsers or cause the operating system to behave abnormally. Links to such pages are frequently posted on anonymous message boards without any form of warning. And in the worst case scenario, they can have serious effects on the computer of whoever visits the page. That's why you gotta be careful. Slightly excited, I opened the link. Taboo auctions 18 plus. Type E blood in short supply. Is this some kind of dark web auction site? Seller ratings, vamp buyer, payment method, item information, 40,000 yen, time left 1 day. Price, starting time. It was on October 10th. Auction ID, Alpaca versus Capybara. I feel like I've read that name somewhere before, but I don't remember where. Type B blood in short supply. It felt like I'd seen that title somewhere before. Might have been deja vu again. You and me both. Anyway, more importantly, where'd that fat-worthy Saratan pick? I spun my mouse wheel and scrolled down the page. Yeah, that must have been the new gen murder right there. Anyway, told you he was baiting. I could tell at a glance that the image that came up on my monitor was obviously gore. I averted my gaze to my left monitor in panic. Then quickly closed the browser. The gore had been on my screen for less than 3 seconds, and the time I spent actually looking at it was even less than that. But even so, is a picture of the corpse from the fourth new gen case. From before, the mass media started reporting on it. It's being sold on an auction like it's totally normal, like they're putting a price on the victim's tragic state itself. So basically the seller is 100% the new gen culprit. Isn't that insane? The seller's name is Vampire. Well, actually it's probably just some throwaway. Even so, this has already caused a whole shitstorm online, been posted all over tons of image boards. There's even memes. It's like Rule 34. People do this shit way too fast. Well, that's very interesting. Rule 34. If it exists, there's porn of it. A satirical rule on the internet stating that anything and everything has received pornographic material in some capacity. The term can also be used as a euphemism to refer to pornographic fan content in general. Another euphemism in the same vein as not safe for work or NSFW, as opposed to SFW or safe for work content. Oh yeah, did you notice a dying message in the image? Dying message. Let me guess, is it what I was speculating earlier? Whose eyes are those eyes? Go away, I didn't want you. It's written on the wall with the victim's blood. Still can't believe it's there. The culprit probably did it for shits and giggles. Hello? Nineheart-san, you alive? Is your comp frozen? Dying message. I only seen the image for an instant, and yet...
ゲームだ。こんな世界は虚構のゲームの世界に違いないんだ。
The victim's last message, written sloppily in deep red blood, had been burned into my mind. No matter how much I tried not to think about it, the letters rose one by one on my closed eyelids, urging me to realize them.
なんであの言葉がここで出てくるんだ。
I knew those words all too well. The words I often murmured to myself. Words I asked nobody in particular. The words Grimm had first said when I jumped in on ESO. It was like they were everywhere now. Those words that I'd never actually said to anyone throughout my entire life. Sure enough. Anyway, look at the corpse. What the hell happened to it? Looks like he was turned to a plant man. Chapter 3, Shogun. That's a very... I don't know what else to describe it other than it looks like he was turned into some kind of plant. He had weird veins on around his body too. I agree with Grimm. No human could have done that. At least no ordinary human. I suspect it's some kind of weird magical ability. Probably the same one that allowed Pinkhair to manifest that weapon in the opening cinematic, and what I assume is that very same sword that FES has, which would thus indicate that FES might have some weird powers too, as if the lyrics in her songs, in Phantasm songs, weren't hint enough already that there was something mysterious, something otherworldly about her, for lack of a better word. Late night Shibuya, 4 a.m. Despite being named a city that never sleeps, very few people were currently present at its most popular locale, Scramble Crossing. I guess New York isn't the only city in the world that's called the city that never sleeps. Instead, many taxis were parked in their place, ready to carry away the drunks, unwilling to wait for the first train of the morning. A generous amount of the drivers were reclined in their seats, napping. The more diligent drivers leaned against their steering wheels as their eyes stared idly toward the hot spots, the most frequent ones being the center guy in the 107 building. However, they were not trying to ascertain whether or not any of the passerby were potential customers. Instead, they focused intently on the movements of the sanitation workers, who had arrived about 30 minutes before. The 5 to 6 men were thought to be sanitation workers due to their yellow armbands, each of which had sanitation reporter written on them. It was very likely that, without the armbands, no one would have recognized them as such. For there was something particularly odd about the men. They were all wearing black suits. Furthermore, ever since their arrival, they had yet to show any signs of cleaning at all. Instead, one man held a strange instrument resembling a pendulum, and the surrounding men appeared to be measuring something. This was not restricted to just one area, however. From the center of Scramble Crossing to the very edge of it, they left no spot untouched, writing all their findings down on various scraps of paper. Even now, they were taking measurements from directly beneath the traffic signals, silently observing the movements of the pendulum. At last, the instrument let out a small chime.
地点 L2 の8 0.62 メガ GE ハイスコアです。
先月より38ポイントもアップか。思った通りだ。
But there was no one present in the early morning Shibuya to pay attention to the odd mumbling and behavior. The taxi drivers would speed off as soon as patrons boarded their cars, quickly forgetting about the mysterious sanitation workers. The drunks were hardly conscious, leaving them unable to see anything around them to begin with. Female nightlife workers who had just clocked out, finally free from the stress of smiling at repulsive drunkards, jumped into taxis to get home as soon as possible. Thus, not a single person was around to notice that the government had not scheduled any plans whatsoever for cleaning to take place that morning. What were they measuring? .62 mega GE. What does mega GE stand for? And it's risen 38 points higher than last month's. Just as expected. Well, whoever these people are, they're clearly I have a feeling that whatever's going on with the new gen stuff and who these men in black are, they are very deeply interwoven with whatever's going on with the new gen stuff. I think that much is obvious. Just who are they exactly? Even after the weekend had passed, the uproar brought on by the fourth new-gen case, now dubbed the Vampire Incident, hadn't even come close to calming down. A man's corpse had been found with all of its blood taken out, leaving the surface of the body a sticky, inhuman shade of green. It had been discovered in a bathroom at Shibuya Station, a part of Inokashira Line. In addition, it was uncovered that a photograph of the corpse had been posted to an online auction, and considering the abnormality and brutality of the murder, it was inevitable that both the mass media and @channel jumped on it. Special attention had been paid to the headline of the auction page, which read, "Type B blood in short supply." Tissue packs advertising an upcoming blood drive had been handed out in large quantities in front of Shibuya Station a few days prior to the incident. You are right about that. I remember now. And the exact same message had been written on them. You're right. So whoever committed this murder is in some way tied to this blood drive? I had one of those tissue packs on hand. Reading back over it again now, the insanely strange words didn't read like an ad for a blood drive anymore. They read like some kind of advanced message of the crime. The police had supposedly been searching for the part-timers handing out the tissue packs, but they had yet to find any of them. Now that is bizarre. Okay, I got a theory. Those men in black are measuring something that they've apparently been expecting to happen over a certain period of time. They measure it by points. And right as this new gen murder occurs, we have a supposed blood drive being advertised by a bunch of volunteer workers handing out tissue packs. And right after the murder takes place and that auction site is held, not a single one of these workers has yet to be found. Not one. I don't have any proof yet, but I have a suspicion that maybe these blood drive workers and these men in black might also be connected somehow. However, there was one area where the vampire differed pretty heavily from the previous cases. While there had already been elements of it in the Kruka fiction case, the intent for it to be a theatrical crime was much more obvious with this one. Theatrical crime. A type of crime committed under full view of the public. These crimes and their subsequent investigations are reported in detail by the mass media, who treat it almost as if it's a TV special. Adding to this effect, the perpetrators will sometimes even send a declaration of their crimes. Like with the tissue packs. It is extremely easy for theatrical crimes to sow disorder and chaos. For example, some individuals may view a criminal as a hero, and some may even be inspired to commit their own similar crimes. The latter individuals are known as copycat criminals. A few media outlets had begun clamoring for increased police presence via patrols, or for a late-night curfew for people under 18. But the number of young people visiting the city showed no signs of declining. They were just as packed as usual, with people flooding every nook and cranny of Center Guy and Scramble Crossing. The internet was so thirsty for news, a group of people trying to be Snake had snuck into Shibuya late at night to post live updates. And there had also been a phrase that was trending among the city's younger population. Whose eyes are those eyes? It wasn't just online. It wasn't just online either. That phrase had penetrated the ranks of each and every dokyun walking around Shibuya. On that channel, it had become common practice to tack the phrase onto anything, regardless if it was related or not. This week's episode of Blood Tune won't have much serotonin, though, with whose eyes are those eyes? The news patch's weapons are so weak, they're actually unusable. Whose eyes are those eyes? What whose eyes are those eyes is that from? And so on. To people my age, New Gen was probably just something new and exciting to follow. The newest shit show to obsess over. But to me, it was the most aggravating thing possible. Regardless, a whole 3 days had passed since the vampire case, so I'd been able to calm down a little. Of course, there was still a nagging uneasiness in the corner of my mind, but by losing myself in ESO over the weekend, I've been able to temporarily forget about all that irritating, inexplicable garbage. Even though I had to go to school today, I've been able to get through my classes by either sleeping through them or thinking about the stats and frame data of ESO's rarest items. I guess I leveled up a little bit. Programmers wanted free training. Now only 500,000 yen to apply. Become a manager today. And so, on my way home from school, I stopped by At Cafe for the first time in a while. It made me happy to see that the room I usually used, room 37, was vacant and ready for me. The last time I'd set foot in it was at least 2 weeks ago, meaning this was the longest gap I'd ever had between visits. The sour breeze flowing from the air conditioning, the manga stained with the smell of tobacco. How comfortable it was to sit back in the recliner. The snores of old men cutting through the silent, still air. It all provided the store's interior with an aura of pure nostalgia.
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。そこから分かったことは、あなた一人の自作自演。将軍はあなた自身。
Remembering Yua's words, I cautiously glanced over at the neighboring room 36. I made sure no one was there when I entered the cafe, and since I wasn't hearing any noise, it was probably still unoccupied. Didn't stop me from being anxious about the possibility, though. I got up and slowly peered over the divider and saw that room 36 was still empty. Relieved, I sat back into my recliner. I hadn't seen Yua since then. We were in different grades, and I didn't go to school that often, so it made sense why we hadn't come across each other.
ユアの妄想はすごいよ。
Not as incredible as yours. I couldn't help but pity her. She was clearly sick in the head, not as sick in the head as you. I'd be better off just leaving her be. Besides, meeting her at all had been a freak accident. It was not a freak accident. Over the past 2 weeks or so, I've been dragged in all sorts of random bullshit. Before then, my everyday life had been completely vanilla, and Misumi-kun was pretty much the only one who talked to me. So why was it that basically nothing but weird, inexplicable bullshit had been happening to me recently? I wanted to avoid thinking about that garbage as much as humanly possible. That dying message had to be just a coincidence. You keep telling yourself that, buddy. I'm sure if you repeat it enough times, it'll become reality. The words were all pretty common, after all. If I thought of it, there was no reason someone else wouldn't have been able to as well. I had no interest in who that message was aimed at. I do. No, I couldn't be interested. That was what I told myself anyhow. Ring, ring. Suddenly, something started ringing nearby. I jolted up in surprise, and a shudder ran through me as I stayed rooted in my recliner. It was the sound of a phone ringing. But whose was it? Yours, maybe? You just got one, didn't you? Because the store was so quiet, the electronic sound rang out all the louder. I looked around, but I couldn't locate a phone anywhere.
もしかして
A thought came to mind, and I fished around in my bag. Sure enough, the ring was coming from the cell phone I'd bought just a few days prior. I glanced warily at the LCD display. Normally, the caller's name would be displayed there. (03-X733-X991). That's an odd area code. Was it a good idea to answer? I don't like talking to people that much, so probably not. Who the hell was calling me anyway? I hadn't told anyone my phone number yet. The only people who knew it even existed were my family, with Nanami's nosy ass making sure to put them in my address book. When one of the people registered in my address book called, their name should display, meaning that whoever calling wasn't a family member. Could be a spam call. If you're lucky. But I don't think you're that lucky. So, who was this? The phone kept on ringing persistently. Did people who had phones usually force people to listen to the ringing for this long? No, they don't. I never used one of them before, so I wouldn't know, but it was incredibly annoying. To suddenly invade someone's privacy like this, cursing them with an obnoxious ringing until they picked up. A socially acceptable way to invade someone's privacy. That was exactly why I didn't want one of these stupid things. Oh, it stopped. Relieved, I checked the screen again. Missed calls. One was displayed on it. I had no interest in returning this rando's call, so I decided to leave it be. It'd be a pain in the ass if this happened again in the future, so I should really figure out how to set up my voicemail. Cell phones were such a pain in the ass. I didn't even like phones to begin with. I mean, come on, they were freaky as hell. How exactly were you supposed to know if the person you were talking to on the other end was the actual person you thought it was? With how prevalent fraud was nowadays, people were actually taking the proper measures to make sure they were people actually taking the proper measures to make sure they were talking to the right person? Well, I definitely would argue that this is a concern that's definitely worth having nowadays, now that the AI Pandora's box has officially opened, and people are using AI to impersonate people's loved ones for scam calls and such. So, you're about a couple decades early from being right on the money with this fear. I couldn't help but wonder how people would be able to calmly have a conversation with someone who might be an impersonator. Even if I understood the gist of how it worked, it was hard to believe that my voice could somehow reach distant places through a phone line. When you talk on the phone, your voice is temporarily converted into electrical signals. They pass through the phone lines until they reach the recipient, where they are then restored back to normal. That's when they became audible. In order to talk on the phone, you need to go through this conversion process at least twice. With a cell phone, your voice is first converted into electrical signals. Then, it travels to a nearby base station via radio waves, which then run through normal phone lines to the switching station, then to the closest base station to the recipient, before finally arriving at their cell phone right afterward. It was a bizarre, complicated process. If my voice was replaced by electrical signals, could the other party really hear my voice, word for word, exactly as I'd sent it? Technically, no, I would suppose. In fact, wasn't it possible that in the conversion process, my voice and my words could be transformed into something completely different? For instance, if I called Nanami, but instead of connecting to her, connected to some strange, shitty facility. And there, I would end up talking to someone who I had never met, who was only pretending to be Nanami. Maybe they wouldn't even be a person, but a computer instead. That was a big reason why phone calls freaked me out so much. They were even scarier than talking to someone face to face. You look interesting. I have a feeling that this girl in the dress right there might be important. But if I'm right, we're going to have to find out about it next time. Because I think I'm going to go ahead and end things here. So, the mystery is still continuing to deepen. I'm definitely quite curious about these men in black now. And now, whose eyes are those eyes is now starting to be spoken about by a bunch of randos on the internet next to the whole murder that just occurred. This all feels directed. Every single thing. All the new gen murders, what those men in black are doing, what they're measuring or searching for. FES's songs. It feels coordinated. And then there's the whole thing with Shogun. I still don't know what exactly is going on here, though. But it's certainly very big. It's very big in scope, and somehow we're connected to it. Probably because of our ESG abilities. Maybe we'll get an answer of some kind to at least one of these questions in the next episode, but somehow I don't think so. I think if anything we're going to be going through the whole process for the next few episodes where we're just going to get more questions than answers before we finally start getting answers that make some degree of sense. With all that being said, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and end things here. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Chaos Head Noah. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and feel free to hit that like button. It helps me out with getting my videos to reach out in the algorithm. And I'll see you all next time. Take care.